Hello again everybody and welcome to this first look at the C-101EB Aviojet. It's an advanced trainer in DCS world just released in open beta by Aviojet Flight Simulation. It's their first module release in DCS. Now also included with this package but not available at the moment is going to be an advanced flight model for this aircraft and also the C-101CC, a light attack variant of this aircraft used by Spain and also Chile and Jordan. But we'll get to those later. For now, I'm just going to go through the main features that we get with this aircraft, handle it a little bit, show you around the cockpit, and let you see what this aircraft is all about, see how I like it, and see how you like it. So let me go ahead and go back to the main menu, and we'll start to go over the aircraft in detail. Now, coming into the menu, things are, as of right now, a little bit sparse. It's an open beta product, just released, and more features are expected to be added as time goes by. But as of right now, as of this recording, we have no instant action missions, no dedicated training module. We have some single missions set up already, just enough to get us into the cockpit, into the aircraft and up and running, nothing more. And of course, no campaign. But that's not to say there isn't plenty to do in the aircraft right now. We have the full-featured mission editor, of course, and multiplayer. If you want to just get into the aircraft and fly around, chat with your buddies, or do whatever you want to do in multiplayer, there's always that option. And with all that, you might be saying to yourself, there's just not a lot to do in this aircraft. You just take the thing up and fly it around, and I would say, yeah, that's the point. It's a full DCS level simulation of a primary jet trainer. All the electrical, hydraulic, fuel system, E&E system, navigation, and all the components are modeled. So it does everything that a primary jet trainer is supposed to do. It gives you a tool to work on airmanship in, it gives you systems to learn and to interact with, and it gives you a full navigation system to use. So that's how I'm going to use it once I get into the test flight series, is really focusing on those things. And of course, at a later date, we're going to get the ground attack variant and be able to do all that stuff too. So let's go ahead and get into the cockpit and talk a little bit more about the aircraft. And flying it around for the first time, I'm very, very impressed with the level of detail that went into this cockpit. I wasn't expecting much coming in, to be honest, but now that I have a chance to see it and move my head around and see all the details and see it in different lighting conditions, you can tell a lot of work went into it. It's highly detailed. All the dials, all the gauges, all the switches work just like you would expect in a DCS level simulation of this type. I guess with one exception, as of right now the oil pressure gauge isn't functioning, but it is a very, very early open beta version of the software, so there are bound to be a few little bells and whistles that still need to be tweaked, but overall, very, very impressed. Great job by the developers. And the first thing I do, of course, whenever firing up a new aircraft is map all the controls. So I've already set my axes up for my joystick, my rudder, and my throttle, so I have the correct and expected response out of all three. And I've also mapped some key features to various keys and various functions of the HOTAS as well as applicable. And it's worth noting that in this open beta version of the software, and I'll pause the simulation real quick so I can show you, is that if you're having trouble getting the landing gear or the flaps to function, come up to the C-101EB custom keys, and I've got it right here. You have to map landing gear toggle. I have that set up for the standard keyboard G key. I have my flaps up, down, and idle detent mapped here, and also the air brake. So if you're having trouble getting some key functions to work, for now in the open beta, I believe you'll have to go to the custom keys and map all that. And I suppose the second thing I do whenever firing up a new aircraft and learning it for the first time is just look around the cockpit and get an overall sense of where the systems are in relation to each other, so that when I go into detailed procedures and start looking for individual switches and individual gauges, I know in general terms where in the cockpit to look. So let me take a minute just to go around the cockpit, show you some of the things that are here and some of the systems that are modeled. I'll start on the left horizontal console, and I have a circuit breaker panel that ties into the electrical system. I've already checked out several of these. It is a very, very detailed electrical system that we have modeled here. I have some emergency and backup flight controls here that I'll use under certain situations. I have the standard throttle and flap controls. I have engine ignition controls right here for the startup and shutdown. I have the fuel system modeled up here. I have landing gear controls and indicators, lighting. I have UHF communications up on my forward main console, as well as your primary flight instruments, just like you would expect right there in the center of the console. I have engine instruments and gauges to monitor engine performance right here on the right side. I also have a system that is going to be tied into the flight director up here on my ADI. Very detailed system. This is fully modeled. It's going to give me, for example, I'll pull up the VOR localizer, and it tells me the it gives me an indication right here of a needle that I need to fly in alignment with in order to guide on whatever navigation I'm doing. Right now I have a TACAN station called up, 17.2 miles. I'm looking for a course of 130, so if I just fly the needles, it's going to take me around and guide on that TACAN station and do most of the hard navigation for me. But I'll leave that in standby for now. I might re-attack that one here in a bit. Center pedestal, I have IFF controls, and of course the IFF system in DCS is not going to be modeled, but the controls are there, as well as some additional navigation controls. Now, right side of the main console, I have electrical system controls and also the caution and warning system. And coming down the right horizontal console, I have oxygen system controls, I have aircraft lighting, I have additional communications and navigation control, and I have the ECS controls for controlling the cabin environment. So it's a very, very well laid out cockpit, like you would expect in a trainer aircraft of this type. And what really stands out to me, especially on initially entering it, is that I don't have any kind of a HUD or a gun sight in this model of the aircraft. So it's a little bit of a different experience visually, and I actually like this a lot. Being able to see out the front unobstructed like this is something that you rarely see or have never seen in DCS. So for that reason, I mean, it's what I'm going to be using to brush up on navigation, especially considering that we have this flight director system and the full navigation system modeled here. For example, I have the TACAN station for Batumi Airfield, 16 X-ray called up. I can see that it's 14 miles out. If I wanted to come down here and set a specific course that I wanted to fly, or if I just wanted to fly direct to it, I can just rotate the course knob, bring it around to align the course deviation needle. Easier said than done, I guess. Where is it at? It's off to my right? Yeah, and there it is. It was off to my left. So, yeah, navigation system, fully modeled in the aircraft. I've got both the TACAN station, and if I choose to, I can switch it over to go off of the VOR system, use this for some ILS navigation. And here's a good opportunity to highlight one more system that's modeled in a lot of detail, and it's the Tarsin gyro system. And I just happened to notice this after flying around for a while, that my ADI is going out of alignment. That means that the gyro is just out of calibration. Now in this case, and I don't know all the details about the system, but just to show you the extent to which it's modeled, I have this vertical gyro fast direct switch, so if I set myself up in level flight, go switch on, it's going to realign the gyro. So now that system is back up and running, it's recalibrated, and now I have the proper attitude displayed on my ADI, and for that matter on my standby ADI. And I guess just a few comments about the way the aircraft handles and how she flies. It's not a high-speed fighter. It won't go supersonic. It's straight winged. It doesn't have swept back wings, and the airspeed indicator says that it's going to top out, or at least get into the unsteady and dangerous realm at about 450 knots indicated, which is what I would expect. With a straight-winged fighter like this, it's more akin to an A-10 than it is to a MiG-21 or an F-15 or an aircraft of that nature. So, as far as handling and the performance of the aircraft, well, it's exactly what I was expecting. It handles very well, it's very, very responsive. Can put some G's on it. I think it's going to top out at about 7.5 G's. And if I push it too far and get the angle of attack up too far, then I get a nice little audio warning right there. I get some buffeting. So it's your standard DCS setup, and it is worth noting that this is a simplified flight model. It doesn't have the advanced flight model that's supposed to be coming with subsequent free updates to the aircraft. So it doesn't have all the quirkiness that you might be expecting out of flying the Sukhoi 25 or the Sukhoi 27 or one of the more advanced in the flight model department aircraft that are in DCS. But that takes time, that takes money, that takes effort, and it is coming, although in its current state, I'm having a lot of fun flying it. This, at one time, not too long ago, was the state-of-the-art, simplified flight model in Lomac and previous versions of this. So I'm not disappointed in the way that it flies, but it is going to be a different experience once that advanced flight model does come out. And if you're basing your decision to buy the aircraft or not buy the aircraft based on the flight model, I could say that it just depends on your intended use for the aircraft. If you're really into aerodynamics and you're wanting an aircraft that you can take up, yank and bank around, and get that really detailed aerodynamic sense that you get in some of the other aircraft with the advanced and professional flight models, then this probably isn't the aircraft for you just at this point. But that's not to say it won't be at some point down the road. But if you're into it for just the systems and the navigation and just to use it as a primary jet trainer like I'm intending to use it, then I really don't care how it flies as long as it gives me the overall sense of the performance of the aircraft, which it does with even this simplified flight model, then it's good enough for my purposes. So I take it for what it's worth, but I'm happy with it. But I could see an argument for holding off a little bit, waiting how things turn out, and maybe going for another aircraft if you're just looking for that more detailed aerodynamic experience. But folks, I'm going to wrap this video up right here, and this was just a very quick first look at the aircraft in its open beta state. Things are definitely going to be subject to change on this, and as things develop, I'll come back and evaluate it again once the flight model does get updated, and especially once the air-to-ground light attack version comes out. I'll do a separate first look video, and of course I will do a test flight series in this aircraft and the light attack aircraft, focusing heavily on navigation for now. So folks, thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.